So what we're going to do is we're going to be taking a look at just an overview of Scratch. This is the offline Scratch editor. There's an online Scratch editor. Oh yes, thanks. Oh yeah. Oh, don't worry. No one needs to really be logged in just yet. So I will come and log in a bit. Actually, that's a good thing. Thanks for reminding me. Right now, you don't have to do anything. You can just kind of sit there and watch, and then afterwards, you'll have lots of time to do stuff. You'll get to play with it. So again, so what we're doing today is we're just going to see an overview of the offline Scratch editor. There is an online Scratch editor, and some of you have done Scratch before, and you might have used the online editor. I find here at Bing, the online editor doesn't work very well when the whole class is using it. It's something to do with the way our IP address is viewed by the outside world. So all of our internet traffic goes through a single line to the Vancouver School Board, and I'm not sure how that it gets screwed up, but oftentimes problems will happen with the online Scratch. Also, just the internet goes off from time to time. It's gotten better over the last after the last year, but it probably won't work very well to use the online editor. So if you have a Scratch online account, that's great, but mostly we're going to stick to the offline editor in this class. If you want to give it a try and use the online editor, I'm not going to say no or anything, but best bet is to stick with the offline editor. It looks mostly the same anyways, so I wanted to just break down sort of what the different parts of the Scratch environment are, and then we'll do some really simple things with the cat sprite and bring in some new sprites, and you guys will just have a chance to play and have some fun. So we can break up the Scratch screen into really two halves. There's the left half and the right half. And then we'll start with the left half. And the left half is broken into a top and a bottom. So let's look at those two things. So this top part here with the cat, I'll zoom in here. This is the preview window that shows you what your animation or game looks like while you're programming. And you can just run your program right in here and play your game right in here. There's a few other buttons that you might want to know about. There's this one up here that is an expanding button, so you can make this preview window take up the whole screen, so you get the maximum size possible. And there's also a green flag and a stop button, which are sort of the start and stop buttons of any game. And those buttons are always available to all of the users, even in full screen mode, so they're a good way that could be your start and stop button to make things work. If anything goes crazy with your program, it's lagging like you can't believe, then hitting the stop button is usually the best way to go. There's a bunch of menu options just above here, and I have to say that this is one of my favorite ones here, this little globe. Scratch has been translated into almost every language on Earth. So if English isn't your first language, I do not mind at all if you select whatever language, Dansk. If you speak Dansk and read Dansk, I'm not sure what Dansk is, sorry, all you Dansk speakers. But if that's your preferred language, you can click on that. I won't, but you can. And then all the scripts, all the interfaces, everything gets translated to that language. So feel free to switch to any language you want. When I come to help you, I might need to switch back to English because I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't know what this is. But that's a useful thing to know. Otherwise, we have the usual saving options. We won't get into too much of these other things, I don't think. But yeah, if you need to save your project file, save is a great way to do it, or save as. When you turn on Scratch, you might notice it needs an update. But don't worry about updating it because you don't have the permissions to do so. And honestly, it is good to update software to keep it bug-free, but no major updates have been released. So just very minor things have been changed. So your experience will be fine not updating it. Okay, so that's the top left-hand corner. We'll zoom out now, and I turned on the help menu. I'll just turn that off. We'll see that in a minute. We'll look at the bottom left-hand corner now. So this is your Sprite Navigator. And sprites, it's not just a term for Scratch. This is actually an industry term for a lot of any 2D video game. Sprites are sort of the different elements that make up your animation or your project. They're the things that have both images and maybe sound and behaviors attached to them. So they can be a lot of different things. It could be a character in your game, but it could also be a button in your user interface. Like it could be the start button, or it could be a sensor sprite that detects whether you cross the finish line, and it could be invisible. There's all sorts of things that sprites can be. But right now, it's good to just think of them as sort of the elements in your animation or game that you want to put some code into and give some pictures to. There's also the stage. So you can see beside the cat, on the left of the cat, there's a stage. The stage is like a special sprite that lives in the back of everything. It's always behind everything else. And it has a few less options for programming because it can't move, and there's a few other restrictions. So you can always, any kind of like background, like if you want to design your level, your map or whatever, that's a good place to put it is in the stage. Or if you just want to, if you're making animation, you just want to set it somewhere. That picture is a great place to put it in the stage. There's lots of buttons here for making new backdrops, and you'll notice there's sort of the similar new backdrop buttons over here, and there's new sprite buttons over here that have similar icons. So you have options to either load a backdrop that's already comes with Scratch, or a sprite that already comes with Scratch. It's like the little mountain or picture one here. The sprite buttons are on this side, so choose sprite from the library. Most of the time you won't choose those because they're fairly dull, fairly childish looking, kind of along the lines of the cat. And that might be good for just practice, but when you make really cool projects, you'll probably want to change it. You can also draw your own. The paintbrush icons that are beside them, you can. It takes you to the editor for drawing sprites, so you can draw your own picture. If you're an artist, you're going to love that. You're going to be able to do all sorts of pixel editing, and there's also vector graphics as well, which we won't talk about today, but it's really powerful sometimes to choose vector graphics versus pixel-based graphics. And then there's open from file, so you can pick a picture you've downloaded from the internet to be a sprite or a backdrop. And then I've never used it, but you could also use your camera in your device if you were, say, on your laptop or something, or on your iPad, and you can take a picture, and that could become your backdrop or sprite. But we don't have cameras on our machines, so that probably won't be a thing. Once you add in new sprites, they'll just show up all here. So I'll just add in a new sprite and a new backdrop. I'm going to choose a backdrop that'll be really useful in a minute. That shows us our coordinate system. There we go. I'll choose that, and then I'll zoom out. This is too nauseating. And then I'll pick a couple of sprites. I'll just randomly choose a holiday sprite. It'll be a dove, majestically flying. Let's choose a letter, K. Oh man, this is shaping up to be quite the project. All right, so notice how as I add sprites, they just get listed down here. You can see their names, and every time you click on a sprite, it has this little eye, so you can click on the eye to get more information about the sprite. So the letter K, I can open it up, and we can see there's all sorts of other details about it. You can change the name here. There's some other information that we won't get into too much detail, but there's all sorts of good stuff to find out about each sprite. So we can go back to the list. And then I guess that kind of concludes our tour of the left-hand side. So let's talk about the right-hand side. Whenever you click on a sprite, the right-hand side changes. So if I click on the cat, then this whole right-hand side of Scratch is kind of looking at the cat. And if I choose the dove, then it switches over, and now this is all about the dove. And so there's three things you can do on the right-hand side. You can build scripts or write code, and that's going to give the sprites behaviors and give them motion and give them dialogue and all sorts of stuff. They're all up the tabs here. So I'm in the script tab right now, and you build your scripts right over here. So if I wanted to make a script, I could drag these blocks from the different tabs and kind of combine these together to make some goofy things happen. I don't even know what I'll do. Hello. So you can build the scripts over here. Think of this as sort of the sprite's brain, and these are all the things you're going to build for them to think about and do, all their actions. There's also another tab, the costume tab. So the costume tab represents all of the pictures that make up this sprite, and the sprite can have multiple pictures. You can create simple animations by having the pictures change from one to the other. So this dove came with two pictures, so it could look like it's flapping its wings if you change the pictures. And of course, you can edit the pictures over here. This one's in vector mode, it happens to be, and there's another mode as well. And last but not least, this is the sounds that are built into the sprite. So this is the dove sprite, so it has a bird sound. Let us listen to the majestic sound of the bird. Oh, lovely. But hey, if we were in the cat sprite, then this sound tab would be the cat's sound, which is a meow. There you go. And we're going to hear that from everyone's computer. You're going to hear meows and squawks and squeaks today. It'll be fun. The KA block oddly has a meow as well, and I don't know why that is, but it does. So hey, good job, meow. You've managed to get yourself into a K block. So there it is. There's lots of other interesting details about this on this side. So if you're working on a script, sometimes it's helpful to zoom out. So there's a zoom out button. You can zoom way out, and then you can see all the scripts that are sort of in your project. For me, I mean, my resolution right now is really small because I'm recording a video, but I like to zoom in while I'm working on something to just focus on one script, and then it's easier to click. Later on, you're going to see we're going to have these blocks where we're going to try and like fit them in, and if you're trying to fit them in at like this view, oh, good luck. It's just impossible. Oh, I did it, but you know, don't try it at home. Like this, good to zoom in. You'll also see some basic information about your sprite. So over here we see the X and Y coordinates, which we'll talk about in a minute. I think the picture rotates as well as I rotate. No, it doesn't. So it's not that useful. But there is something super useful right beside that little preview of your sprite. There is a question mark. It's kind of hiding on the very, very right-hand side. Well, that question mark is super useful. Anyone who either, if you want to get ahead in Scratch and find out all the fun things it can do, or if you feel behind and you're not sure about how something works, or if you just are curious, you can click the question mark, and there's all sorts of things for you to take a look at. So these are sort of step-by-step tutorials. So if you wanted to go through these tutorials, you could learn about various different topics. They're all sort of on the beginner side of things. And we'll be doing more advanced things in these topics, but as you're getting started, they might be interesting to try out. There's also how-to, so if you wanted to look at games, stories, music, animation, effects, then this might be an interesting place to go to look at that kind of stuff. Again, we're going to be covering all these things in class, but again, if you want to get ahead, or if you feel behind, or you're not sure what's going on, then feel free to take a look at these. They're pretty helpful. You could go in, and maybe games is the more exciting one. Hey, how do you bounce around? How do you use the arrow keys to move? Like it gives you sort of scripts for you to use and explains, how they work. And then last but not least, this is my favorite part, is not the step-by-step and not the how-to, though those are good, but there's a whole dictionary of all the blocks. So if you are just like, what does this block do? All these code blocks. You could go into any of these things and open it up and read about how they work. And this is probably the most useful thing in the help menu because there'll be times where you're like, what does this block do again? I forgot. And so you can help yourself. I mean, I'm happy to answer your question, but also feel free to just check this out. Sometimes you'll find in this class you'll be waiting a while. You'll be like, you have your hand up and I'm helping people. There's like 3 people in front of you. Hey, in the meantime, why not give this a try and take a look inside to see if that can help you out. All right, so that's a quick tour of Scratch. I feel I should probably tell you about the undelete button as well. I guess I didn't mention that. If you ever delete something by accident, like I just deleted a script, right? If that was like your magnum opus that you had been working on, your AI for your end boss, and you accidentally clicked and dragged it into oblivion, there's an undelete feature. So you can click and go undelete, and it comes back. Whatever it is you just deleted will come back. There's no like Control Z or anything, but there is an undelete. Also, if you have a whole bunch of scripts and it's all messy, oh, it's funny. It's out of whack with the zoom. Oh, there we go. I guess it came back at the same zoom it was when I deleted it. If you have a bunch of scripts that are just all scattered around and you want to clean it up without manually dragging them around, you can right-click in the brain of the sprite and choose Clean Up. And just organize them all for you. And I'm waiting for the time where I can do that on my house, where I can just like right-click in my living room after my kids play with Lego, especially after they play with Lego. And it's just like minefield. If you've ever stepped on a Lego brick, then you know the danger of that. I'm like, right click, clean up. Oh, that would be beautiful. So use that all the time, and you keep your code nice and clean, and you won't have any troubles with that. So what we're going to do is give you a chance to just play for a while. We got 35 minutes before the fire drill. So what I'd like you guys to try out mostly is going to be stuff from the motion tab and looks tab and sound tab. These are probably the most obvious tabs. And they're only obvious if you know a couple of facts about Scratch. So we're going to go over those facts. It'll take about 5 minutes, and then I'll turn you loose. So I know some of you are getting antsy to start doing some stuff. Some of you already know all this because you've done Scratch before, so I apologize if you're kind of waiting for the action to begin. But I do want to go over it, and specifically about the XY coordinate system. So I'm going to move my Scratch sprites out of the way so that you can see the stage. I've chosen the stage because it shows you the coordinate system by which all sprites and everything on the screen is measured and positioned. So if you don't know the coordinate system, then it'll be difficult for you to move forward. So this is just the XY axis that you're probably familiar with from math class. The center is 0, 0. So your X coordinate is 0 and your Y coordinate is 0. And as you go up, Y increases. As you go down, Y decreases. And for X, if you go to the right, X increases. And if you go to the left, X decreases. Just so you know the dimensions of the Scratch screen, the highest Y coordinate that's on screen is 180. And I'll write this on the board too. And the bottom is negative 180. And the X goes from 240 to negative 240. So that's a total of 360 pixels tall, 480 pixels wide, which is not a huge amount of space. Most games don't run at such a tiny resolution nowadays. So space is at a premium. Eventually, by the end of our Scratch unit, we'll see how to make a world that's bigger than the screen. But right now, we're going to be stuck inside of the space. So just make the best use of it. So hopefully, if you understand the coordinate system, if you take a look at things like go to XY and glide to XY, you'll be able to kind of operate with that. So for example, if I wanted my cat to glide from this position to this position, well, I could use the coordinate system to get a glide block out here to make it do that operation. But guess what? There's a bit of a cheat. You can totally cheat, so you don't have to type in numbers. Whenever you move your character around, you guys see what's happening to the coordinates of all those blocks that have coordinates? They're updating, right? So I can just be like, so I want my cat to start here. So I'll grab the go-to block. Go-to is like a teleport. If you want to just be instantly teleport to that XY location, go-to is the block for you. It's your go-to block for teleportation. And then maybe I'll make it wait for a second. Oh, I guess we weren't going to go into control today. I couldn't help myself. And then we'll make it glide. So maybe I want it to glide to this corner for whatever reason. So I just move it to where I want it to go, and then I can pull this glide over here. So in some ways, you could probably get by without knowing the coordinate system. You can just kind of move things around and plan them out. But you might as well find out about the coordinate system. So this is a script right here. This tells our cat, because we're in the cat sprite, so this is the cat's brain, to teleport to this location, wait a moment, and then glide to this location. Also, glide has a time as well. This is how long it'll take for it to glide, so the bigger the number, the slower it will go. However, we're still missing something on this script. Every script needs a trigger, something that will make it happen. So there's a lot of triggers, and you can find them in events. So you can make this happen when you press the green flag, when you press a key, when you click on the sprites, when the backdrop switches to a specific backdrop. I've never used loudness in my life. No idea. But there's a bunch of things, timer, video motion. These we probably won't use too much. And there's a broadcast we won't talk about too much. So, for example, I'll do the green flag one. So now when I press the green flag, the cat will teleport, wait, and then glide. Is that true? Oh, it's true. Oh, and apparently the bird will say hello as well, for whatever random reason. So notice that they all happen at the same time, right? Well, roughly the same time. It says, wait, over here on the bird, wait a second, move 10 steps, and say hello. So they're all sort of happening whenever the green flag is pressed. Everything happens at the same time in Scratch, at least on the surface. Technically, that's not exactly true. That's close enough. So what I'd like you guys to do is just experiment with motion. So take a look at motion. You might want to take a look at some of the other options in there, like rotating things as well. Here's a few challenges. I'll write these up on the board, but I'll just finish the YouTube video first. So try to make something spin around, but not just like teleport spin, like actually like animate it as it goes around. See if you can make that happen. You can make something move in a square pattern around the screen. So have maybe your cat take a journey around the edges of the screen in a square pattern, and then see if you can make it make sounds as well as it goes. So maybe it can squawk and meow as it goes across. So get it playing different kind of sounds. If you get excited about sounds, you could, and you're into music, then you could actually make it compose music. So you could experiment with the music composition a bit. Also, you could include dialogue or costume changes. So if you want the cat to look like it's walking, you can make it like, switch back and forth between costumes. You got next costume for that. That's the name of those pictures, are costumes. So lots of different things to experiment with. So I'll write those on the board, and then you guys can try them out, or try something better. Those are some suggestions. So at least do those things. But if you have other things you want to try, or that's like an old news to you because you did that before, then try something more exciting than that. All right, that's the end of our video. Bye.